Dollar forever. Every decade, experts predict the fall of the US dollar. Yet every decade, the dollar survives, often emerging even stronger. Why is this currency so hard to replace? Today, the dollar is the backbone of global finance. About 60% of all central bank reserves are held in dollars. The euro holds just 20%. More than 80% of world trade is invoiced in dollars, even between countries that have nothing to do with the US oil, gold, technology, even debt. Almost everything is priced in American currency. During the 2008 crisis and again in 2020, global investors fled to dollars, proving its safe haven status. In the dollar forever scenario, this dominance continues. The U.S. still controls the deepest financial markets, the most liquid bonds, and unmatched military power. Trust in American institutions keeps global demand high. But history warns us, no empire lasts forever. Just ask the British pound. And that leads us to the next scenario, the slow death of the dollar. Currencies rarely collapse overnight. The British pound was once the world's king. Today, it's just another currency. Could the dollar be heading for the same slow decline? The dollar still dominates, but its share is shrinking. In 1999, over 70% of global foreign reserves were in dollars. Today, it's closer to 58%. Countries like Brazil and China are striking trade deals in their own currencies. India has purchased Russian oil using rupees. Even Saudi Arabia, historically tied to the petrodollar, is considering selling oil in yuan. This is the slow death scenario, not a crash, but steady erosion. If U.S. debt continues to climb, now above $33 trillion, and inflation remains high, global trust weakens. Meanwhile, alternative systems like China's CIPS compete with SWIFT, making it easier to bypass the dollar. Over time, trade and reserves could shift to a basket of currencies. The dollar becomes a ghost of its former self. And if the dollar slowly fades, someone must step in. Many believe Europe, with its euro, is the strongest contender. European takeover. Europe once ruled the world with empires. Today, its battlefield isn't land or armies, it's money. Could the euro quietly dethrone the dollar? Since its 1999 launch, the euro has been the dollar's fiercest rival. At its 2009 peak, it accounted for 28% of global reserves, the closest any currency has come to stealing the crown. Today, it sits near 20%, yet it still anchors trade across Europe, parts of Africa, and the Middle East. Backed by the European Central Bank, it remains one of the most trusted monetary systems. In a European takeover, the euro regains momentum if the EU proves unity. Stabilizing weaker members, securing energy independence, and deepening integration could pull global capital toward the euro as the safer long-term bet. One crisis could bring the euro to its knees and drag global markets down with it. While Europe tests its cohesion, another challenger is accelerating: China, wielding the yuan as a financial weapon. Power of China. China isn't just the factory of the world, it's also building a financial weapon, the yuan. Could it dethrone the dollar? China is the second largest economy and the top trading partner for over 120 nations. In recent years, it has pushed hard to expand yuan-based trade. Russia now settles much of its oil and gas in yuan. Brazil and China signed a deal to bypass the dollar in commerce. Even Saudi Arabia has openly considered pricing oil in yuan, shaking the foundations of the petrodollar system. In the power of China scenario, the yuan grows as China's markets open. If Beijing loosens capital controls, promotes its CIPS payment network, and ties trade to its Belt and Road projects, global use of the yuan could surge. But transparency and trust remain major hurdles. Investors still doubt China's political and financial openness. And if no single currency replaces the dollar, the world may evolve into a system where many share power instead of one. World without a leader. For centuries, money always had a captain steering the ship. First gold, then the British pound, and now the US dollar. But what if that ship suddenly lost its captain, drifting into stormy seas? The dollar's grip is slipping. In 2000, it made up more than 70% of global reserves. Today, it's below 60%. The euro sits near 20%, the yuan about 3%, while the yen and Swiss franc remain regional anchors. Groups like the IMF and BRICS now talk openly about alternatives, signaling a fragmented future. In a world without a leader scenario, no single currency dominates. Asia leans on yuan, Europe on euros, North America on dollars. Central banks hedge by holding baskets instead of trusting one anchor. On paper, it looks safer, but the price is chaos. Violent exchange rate swings, fragile alliances, and every geopolitical shock turning into a global financial quake. No anchor, no safety, just a permanent currency Cold War. And as this fragmentation deepens, governments are already testing something even more radical: digital future. Imagine a world where every dollar has eyes. Cash is gone, replaced by government-backed digital money that can see, track, and record everything you buy. It sounds like science fiction, but it's already here. More than 130 countries are developing central bank digital currencies, or CBDCs. China leads with the digital yuan, tested in cities like Shenzhen and already used in millions of payments. Europe is preparing a digital euro. The US Federal Reserve is researching its own version. For governments, this promises faster payments, lower costs, and total visibility of financial flows. In the digital future scenario, CBDCs replace cash and change global finance. If trust and security are guaranteed, countries could bypass the US dollar in international trade. But there's a darker side: loss of privacy, increased surveillance, and unprecedented central control. Digital money could become a financial big brother, convenient, powerful, and impossible to escape. But not everyone accepts money with eyes. For some, the true future lies in currencies no government can ever control. Crypto world. What if governments lost their grip on money forever? Imagine a world where Bitcoin, not the dollar, becomes the true global currency, a system no one can shut down. Born in 2009, Bitcoin was designed as open rebellion against traditional finance. Since then, it has surged into a trillion-dollar market at its peak, drawing millions of believers. El Salvador even made it legal tender. In countries like Argentina and Nigeria, citizens turned to crypto to survive inflation and broken banks. Meanwhile, stablecoins like Tether and USDC move billions across borders every day, outside the reach of the banking system. What could happen and under what conditions? In a crypto world scenario, decentralized currencies replace trust in governments with trust in code. Bitcoin could serve as digital gold, while stablecoins act as everyday money. But this revolution has enemies: wild volatility, energy costs, and most of all, states determined to defend their control. Governments could strangle crypto before it takes over, or be forced to kneel before it. And if governments fail to contain it and the dollar collapses, the world could enter its darkest financial nightmare: Great Collapse. What if the unthinkable happens? The US dollar doesn't just weaken, it collapses completely. The dollar has survived every major crisis, from the Great Depression to 2008 and even the pandemic. But the pressure is real. Over $33 trillion in US debt, rising inflation, and deep political division. History proves no currency is immortal. The German mark collapsed in the 1920s, and Venezuela's bolivar became worthless through hyperinflation. In the Great Collapse scenario, global trust in US bonds disappears. If investors refuse American debt or inflation spirals out of control, the dollar could lose its role almost overnight. Markets would crash, trade would freeze, banks could fail, and countries would scramble for gold, crypto, or regional currencies. But none would stabilize the system fast enough. The result: empty ATMs, frozen credit cards, and global panic. The fall of the dollar wouldn't just be an American disaster. It would feel like the world's financial apocalypse. If the dollar fell tomorrow, what would you trust with your savings? Gold, crypto, or something else? Tell me in the comments, because the future of money may arrive sooner than we think.